Jason Nathanson joined us. He's the ABC News correspondent in Los Angeles. Earlier today, we were talking about Netflix and the availability of streaming products, and I said that Santa Clarita Diet is sort of one of my guilty pleasures. It's a dark comedy, but I'm also curious. Lost in Space is on Netflix now, and there's some others that are out there. But more importantly, Roseanne Barr's show. Last I heard, the ratings are still holding on this program. Am I right?
Yeah, the ratings are still doing very well. It's one of the top, if not the top, scripted show on television right now, and that'll probably remain that way throughout the rest of the season. People just really seem to dig it.
You can see that on Hulu, too. They stream it on Hulu.
You see on Hulu? Mm-hmm. All right. Then I saw something on the internet about, and I'd forgotten, thankfully, mercifully, forgot about a lot of these films. Some of the worst movies ever made, and based on performance at the box office. Ishtar, of course, was on that list. But the other one was Howard the Duck, which I never saw it, but there were a whole bunch of real bombs on that thing that companies took huge baths on. It must be an incredible financial risk for these companies to sink so much money into something, promote it, and then have just fall off a cliff.
Sure, but that's why you have the studio system, because for every bomb you make, you have an Avengers or something like that, and that kind of evens things out. That's why it's really hard for some of these more independent studios to make 1 or 2 or 3 movies a year, because those movies then have to make their money back. And if you're in that position, you could go under real quick.
Well, what's on the horizon? Because it's early to mid-spring, and summer's soon to come, and it seems to me that the theaters always want to drop 2 or 3 major, what do they call them, tent-pole movies. Is there anything like that that's on the horizon that you can tell us about?
Oh, yeah. Well, next weekend is Avengers Infinity War, which might be the highest-grossing movie of the year. That has all the Avengers in it, all from Marvel. You have every superhero in the world. The big premiere of that is going to be on Monday night in Hollywood. Then the rest of us get to see it, in the media, and some special people get to see it on Tuesday for the first time. Nobody has seen any of it yet.
Really?
They've been doing these things all over the world, premieres in Shanghai and all over the place. But they haven't been showing the movie because it's so secretive, and they don't want any of the word to get out before it actually, before anybody's ready. So next week will be the first time that we get to see it early in the week, and then on Thursday night it hits theaters, and it's one of the most highly anticipated movies of the year.
But you will get to see it, because usually when something like that happens, and I was always under the impression that that meant the movie was a stinker anyway, but the media critics then will get an opportunity to view it before the general public.
Yeah, there's only one other time that they haven't let us see it before the actual premiere and before we get to do our interviews, and that the last time was for Star Wars: The Force Awakens, the first film. And that turned out pretty well. So, but usually you're right. If they don't let us see it ahead of time, it's because the movie's not good. I don't think that's the case here. The case here is that they just don't want anything spoiled. They don't want anything out there.
I got a question for you. You interview a lot of people, stars and that sort of thing. Who is generally one of the easiest persons that you've ever interviewed? Just they came in, they sat down, and you had a rip-roaring good time with them.
Jeez.
Yeah, I know. Big list, I'm sure.
It's a huge. One of the people I always go back to is Jeff Bridges. It was always one of the nicest, one of the easiest guys to talk to. No airs about him. But I gotta tell you, most people are generally nice, at least when it comes to talking to me, because they usually have something that they want to promote.
Sure.
So it's in their best interest to put on, even if they're not in a good mood. And some people have a tougher time faking it than others. But most people, in my experience, have been pretty cool.
Is there a movie you'd recommend this weekend?
This weekend, no. I mean, we're kind of in this placeholder until Avengers comes out next weekend. So this weekend we got a couple. Amy Schumer's been everywhere promoting her new movie, I Feel Pretty. And if you're a fan of Amy Schumer, you might want to go see that. It's had a tough time because it's been billed as this movie that might be, that about fat shaming and body, image and things like that. And Amy Schumer's tried a lot of times over the past 2 weeks to explain that this movie is about, feeling beautiful and loving your body and loving yourself, but that doesn't exactly come through in the trailer for some people. And it's not going to do that well at the box office compared to her other films, Trainwreck and Snatched. It's going to open below those and probably in third place this weekend behind Rampage and A Quiet Place.
Now, what Rampage? I've seen the trailers for that. This just impresses me as bad animals going wild.
Yeah, I mean, pretty much it's based on a video game, which is the exact same thing, and then you throw The Rock in, and you got a combination for some fun action. But, the movie's been underperforming, not doing as well as people, at least the studio, hoped it would. And so this weekend, it's actually going to battle with A Quiet Place. And A Quiet Place, which is in its third weekend, might actually win the weekend, come back into first place after being out of first place last week, which is a very rare thing to happen at the box office. So, it's kind of a quiet weekend right now until, like I said, next week we get ready for Avengers, which could break records. I mean, we're wondering if it's going to break the all-time record of opening, which is Star Wars The Force Awakens at $240-something million.
Good grief.
Huh.
Yep.
Make your money back in 1 week? Well, maybe not. Well, the way Hollywood bookkeeping goes, it always seems that it takes them forever to earn their money back, and a lot of them, even though they show a profit, if you will, the way the bookkeeping system works, it seems like they're not making all their money, which obviously they are because they're still making movies, right?
Well, yeah, but I mean, So you brought up there. So, say a movie makes over $200 million in its opening weekend. That's great, and that probably makes most of its money back. But the studio doesn't get all that money; they get half of it. The other half goes to the distributors and the theaters who are showing the actual movie. So you have to actually make double the budget of your movie before you see any profit at all. And then you have to add on top of that marketing costs, which is usually like $100 to $200 million these days for a movie like Avengers. So you have to make 2 to 3 times the cost of the budget before you make any money back.
Wow. Hey, thanks for the insight, Jason. We appreciate it.
Sure thing. Take care.